All right, first let's talk about log locations. What are the logs that exist within Azure Information Protection? So Azure RMS, the Azure Rights Management Service, has a number of logs on its own. First of all, it has an administrator log. All the actions that are taken for the administration of Azure RMS are logged somewhere, and it's possible to view all of those. There are also user logs, and so that logs every time a user is doing something within Azure RMS. There's also a separate log for document tracking. So if you turn document tracking on for a particular document, information about where that document goes, who has rights to it, and who opens it is all logged in document tracking. One thing to note is that document tracking can be turned on and off. The reason being there may be some restrictions from a compliance perspective on tracking documents and where they go. So Microsoft provides the ability to turn that feature on and off. So that's 3 different logs just by itself. The Azure Information Protection client that runs locally also has a couple logs. The first are client logs. The client logs are really for Microsoft support and not really for you to evaluate. So if you are running into an issue with the Azure Information Protection client, Microsoft might ask you to gather up these logs and send them. They're not something that you could parse on your own easily. The AIP client also makes use of the Windows event log. So if you're looking for information about what the AIP client is doing, you can just look in the standard Windows event logs and find more information there. Just to dive in a little bit more about some of these logs, the first one is Azure RMS admin logs. I mentioned that in the previous slide. That is actually stored in Azure Blob Storage, and the way that you access it is through PowerShell. The AADRM module has commands for accessing those logs. The typical way to export them is in CSV format. The log itself comes down as a .log. You can pretty easily export it to a CSV. The next log type that I mentioned previously was the Azure RMS usage logs. So those are the user logs. What are the users doing with this service? That is also stored in Azure Blob Storage, and it's accessed via PowerShell with the same module. Now the export for that is going to be not just one file, but multiple log files. And because of that, it's actually recommended to use something like Log Parser, which is a program from Microsoft, to take all of those different log files, merge all the information into a single file, and format it and query it in any way that you need to. So if you know that you're looking for actions from a specific user, you could either use the query language within Log Parser, or you could merge all the logs to a CSV and just use standard search terms to look through that CSV. Document tracking logs are logged to the document tracking site, which is a site that users who have turned on document tracking can go to see what's happening with documents. It can also be accessed via PowerShell, and once again, if you get those files, probably the easiest way to run through them is by using Log Parser. Finally, the last log type that you would deal with as an administrator are the client usage logging that happens within the Windows event log. And obviously the easiest way to access that is by using Event Viewer. And you can use the export feature within Event Viewer to export it to whatever other format you might need.